Hey everybody, and welcome back to the podcast this week, the Camber Karting podcast, the only place where our motto is, when you are stressed, exhale negativity, inhale two-stroke, and Yamaste.
Yamaste.
Namaste.
We're changing up the format a little bit. You'll notice we're not going to have a news section this week. That's coming out in a different blip. We call it the news blip, the blip of the throttle, if you will, and that's going to be released separately. We're basically just going to talk about our topic each week and have some more fun with that. We got a full boat this week with Chris and Andrew and myself all in here. So we're just going to have some fun with that. We are going to start changing some things on the YouTube channel. For those of you who have been with us since the beginning on YouTube, we're going to start uploading some more non-podcast content, some videos and whatnot in the future. So we will let you know when all that stuff's coming down the pipeline. Hopefully get you guys all interested in the YouTube channel is going to be rebranded just Off Camber Karting, because we're going to be doing a lot more just racing related videos and content other than just the podcast. But the podcast will still be here. So let's get started this week. Our topic for this week is sportsmanship. So this was all brought on by a major event that happened in the karting world. Yes, this is actually a big karting one for once. It came out, I guess, what was this, like a week or two ago, guys?
It was about that, yeah.
Yeah, at the FIA, the final round of the FIA World Karting Championships held at South Garda Karting Circuit in Lonato, Italy. Italian driver Luca Corberi was caught on video throwing a piece of bodywork at a fellow racer, and then later on getting into a huge freaking fight. If you haven't seen the YouTube video, it's all over. Just Google, basically just Google kart racer throws bumper and you'll find it. But yeah, just search that. And that really set the racing world on end, on Twitter, all over social media, like, let's get this guy lifetime banned kind of thing. And it made us step back and think, okay, let's talk about some sportsmanship stuff and our past experiences, because to be honest, none of us are perfect.
Speak for yourself, but...
Oh, hush you. But, what's acceptable sportsmanship? What do we need to view on this? And, obviously this is way outside the realm of acceptable. This is like Bowman Gray Stadium levels of crazy, to be honest.
Yeah, except by Bowman Gray, the fans enjoy it. I think this was roundly criticized by everyone.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. Like, wow. Yeah, the bumper throwing and then the fighting itself, and his dad got involved, and oh man. So
doesn't his dad own the track?
I believe his dad owns the track, and they either own or manage it. It's so insane. I know from my experience of racing with, having some, weight on your shoulders, so to speak, from backing from certain sponsors, or, actually having somebody that's relying on you to win the race, that I understand being under pressure. And when that gets to be way too much and you just explode. But exploding like that is wrong. And especially at that level, the World Karting Championships. I mean, my gosh, people. That's crazy. Did you guys ever experience anything like that in Grand Prix?
So, in terms of exploding at another competitor, no. But at least not in their face. But I think, we've all had those moments where you genuinely feel like you were wrong and nothing's being done about it. And I think, at least in my experience, I've been able to find a place where I'm alone, after the race, and sometimes you just got to cry it out, and there's no shame in that. But now I'm happy to say that I haven't seen anyone, become violent as a result. Yeah, we've all thrown our gloves in disgust. That's like a universal symbol of I am disgusted with this outcome in not so many words. But yeah, no, never never, at least in Grand Prix or the karting that I've done, have I seen someone throw bodywork and then throw hand.
Well, thankfully in Grand Prix, there's no body work to throw.
Yeah. Good point.
I've seen wrenches thrown. Not in Grand Prix, but yeah. Yeah, we had a incident at the dirt track a long time ago from my days in dirt racing, which is pretty much, you can expect levels of Bowman Gray crazy at the dirt tracks on a pretty regular basis. There was a big fight between two people who got into it on track in the lead. And there was I would say, guy in his late 20s, early 30s, who was kind of a perennial winner, we'll say. Big time money racer is what we called him. And then the battle was between him and a kid who was, I don't remember if he was 18 yet or not. And so we'll just assume minimum 18, but much younger. And the kid's dad. And they got into it about the finish of the race because there was a lot of beating and banging, and the kid, I think, got taken out or something. And I think they went in, like, they squared off in a trailer in the pits, like one of the two people's trailer. I think it was the kid's trailer. And the guy came back, somebody came back and with a toolbox full of wrenches, his toolbox, and just started chucking the wrenches in the trailer at the other people. That was probably the worst karting. I think one of the worst karting fights I've ever seen. I've seen some pretty gnarly ones, but yeah, that was probably one of the worst ones. Yeah, the wrench throwing incident that actually got the cops called to the track. So that was fun.
Well, outside of Grand Prix, I mean, I've seen, when I was working at a kart track down in here in North Carolina, there were a couple of situations where I was still in high school, but I was the track marshal for that given race, for a rental race, and two of the guys who could probably eat me for breakfast get out and square up, and I've just got me and a black flag rolled up into a baton between the two of them. I basically had to stick that, like, they were coming at each other. I had to stick it so it touched both of their chests and held them in place. It was like, guys, if you guys are going to throw hands, I'm going to be in the middle of it. You really want to catch a case with a minor over this? And they're like, oh, no. Like, exactly. And sometimes it just takes that singular threat of, getting a kid involved that will shake most people out of that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But no, anytime a kid's involved, like it's one thing to have two grown men fight it out, but you never want to have a kid in the middle of that.
No.
That's just that's just a whole nother level of unacceptable. I will say about Grand Prix though, Grand Prix is kind of like IndyCar, where people will get pissed, but the thought of throwing hands, at least in public, it's just not seen as the done thing. And we'll, as we get into this episode, and Andrew, you know about this, there've been times when we've had confrontations with other drivers where it's you have to call them out on it, but it never gets to that point where you actually fold somebody.
Yeah. I feel like I've had so many cases now between the dirt racing and a few other instances of altercations, and it's not all my fault. I will say that right now. I am a very passionate driver. I am nowhere near as volatile as I used to be at a younger age. Nowhere near as much pressure on me, but man, I've been in the middle of some things or seen some things. I was at a street race. I believe it was Brazil in the Park here in Indiana, and it was my only time I went there. And we had the start of the race. There were two guys at the back that laid way back at the start, and we have this rolling start coming around there, and it's a tri-oval in the park there. And these guys laid way back, and they were on it before they came out of turn 2. So by the time that they came through turn 3, coming to the start finish line, they were up the bumper of everyone, and up the bumper of the pack, and they just plowed. There was nowhere to go because it was a really narrow track, so they just plowed in the back of these cars, and it was the boxcar effect. And I was merely a passenger at that point, and I ended up into the car in front of me and just jackknifing him really bad, and we both ended up through the bales in the pit area. It's really funny because I ended up in my pit area. And I just remember this woman coming running at me, this old woman, and just cursing up a storm, yelling, and I'm like, and I'm kind of disoriented because I just went on this free ride through the bales. It's like free boat ride for 3, free boat ride for 1 through the bales, and this woman's just going nuts at me and smacks me across the helmet. I'm like, what in the world? And she is all up in my face saying I took her son out of the race. And I'm just, every curse word, everything she could call me, no holds barred. And I'm like, what? I got plowed into. And I'm like, and the guy, if you look behind me, you see the carnage of the carts behind me. And it was so funny because the guy who I got into, he comes up and he's like, were there idiots at the back laying back? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, idiots. And we're talking it out. We're perfectly fine. And turns out this was like his stepmother or somebody just going nuts on me. And turns out she was very, very intoxicated. And the police came over and getting her off. I'm like, did I do anything? And they're like, no, you're fine. I'm like, okay. and then once they told her, because this was before I was 18. Once they told her, it's like, you just slapped a minor across the helmet. We're gonna have to talk with you about this. She started calming down real fast and apologizing. But yeah, that
sometimes it takes a little encouragement.
Yeah, and probably if we'd actually had any money to have a lawyer or something at the time other than what we had in our racing, we probably could have sued him. But it was like, I just want to get back out on the track and get going in the race because my race hadn't even started yet, and I am flying through the bales. So yeah, that was crazy. To think I could have went to the U.S. Grand Prix that weekend instead of that. And the last one at that. So yeah, there was that. Oh my gosh, before I was old enough, there was a guy at the dirt track who, admittedly, he had shown me the bumper a few times and did the old slide job on me and pushed me out of the way. And we were coming in like the last lap, and I did the slide job on him and gave him the side pod a little bit. And it was one of those, I wanted a top 5 or I wanted a top 3. I forget what the position was, but I wanted it more than him, and I went in there. I needed points, stay in points contention, and I took it. And he comes up to me after the race and he's like, "You're driving like it's the damn Indy 500 out there, like you're an idiot, blah, 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 blah." I'm like, well, it's the points championship. Kind of want the payoff at the end of the year, so to speak. And yeah, it was one of those, the unwritten rule of racing, besides nothing ever starts on time, is don't take your helmet off in the grid after the race.
Yeah.
And if I had taken my helmet off, he would have taken a swing at me. But then the security guard's like, "Do you really want to do that? Because he is not 18 yet." I was younger, and he's like, "Oh, I guess not." His exact words were, "I guess not." And he's like, "That's a wise guess."
So guys, what we're saying is, don't age for a variety of reasons, but mostly so you don't get punched.
Yeah. Or if
It's
you
like
get punched, you
it's
get
a
a nice
perfect
payday.
shield.
Yeah.
I need an adult.
But as a kid, let me say from being in these situations, don't put yourself in those situations. I realize you learn from your mistakes, but don't be put in a situation where you have to learn maybe as many times as I've had in that situation. But when you have a lot of pressure on you, that's kind of what I'm conveying here, is when you have a lot of pressure, you tend to do things that really you shouldn't do, that are not acceptable. But when you have to win, when that pressure's on you, like I said, stupid stuff happens. So that's part of what I'm seeing with this kid. But what he did was way outside the realm of acceptable, and the fight post race with his dad getting involved just really, that kind of put the icing on the cake there.
When you see a guy who's at least in his 40s or 50s, just Randy Orton, a 15-year-old, into a chain link fence. I mean, that's just,
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
it's not
Yeah.
good looks. Not good looks, you know?
Yeah. Not stonks.
Not stonks.
Not stonks.
Yeah,
So
we've been
yeah,
teaching Corey memes.
yeah, teaching me memes. Us old guys teaching us memes. Oh my gosh, not stonks. But yeah, and parents getting involved. If you are a parent out there, I fully understand defending your child, especially if it's against other adults. You know, if somebody's getting up in your child's face and you believe that they're not teaching them a lesson necessarily, or not the right lesson, you need to diffuse the tension. Get in there and not necessarily throw a punch first, please. Don't do that. But don't get into it with kids. That's a very bad idea. And definitely just don't fight amongst parents. That's also very bad. I've seen that. I've seen parents just go at it with each other. And at the end of the day with that, you got to remember it is kart racing. I mean, it's not the Indy 500 or the Daytona 500 or the 24 Hours of Le Mans or anything like that. It is kart racing at your local track most of the time, or if you're national championships, I guess. And
Like,
what we have
whatever it
to,
is, don't go to jail for kart racing, please.
yeah, as we have to tell people, it's like Roger Penske's not in the grandstands watching your kart race, most likely. I don't even think he's going to be in the grandstands at Ballard, to be honest, but just in case. Yeah. But yeah, he's definitely not going to pick your son or daughter to drive or you to drive if you're getting into fights, because that's not his thing. He's very professional. So yeah, I think I'm going to skip a bunch of my stories with this because I have too many.
Well,
I'll
I
add on to this actually. So I get that, we're all passionate about karting. I know the three of us are. And it takes a lot of money to get into karting and especially get to the point where you're competitive. Don't throw that all away.
Yeah.
If you get banned from a track, that's one less place you can go to and have a chance to win.
Yeah. Yeah. And as far as on-track activity is concerned, don't do stupid stuff on tracks that can instigate or get somebody hurt. Don't get into it. Don't put yourself in a situation where somebody could come back flying, fist flying at you. So
yeah, racing is also one of those sports where you can do absolutely nothing wrong, but then somebody else will wreck you, and then they will want to fight you. So part of that is also, responding to things that make you really mad and that are really unexpected. Now it's just a matter of you gotta keep a cool head, and sometimes you just gotta walk away.
yeah. Yeah. My last major incident, I think, came at one of the first. It was like one of the opening races of the season at a big track or a big kart track, and there were coming out of the last corner. It was a real high speed situation. And two carts, like one cart spun coming off the corner because it was really cold also. This was like early March. He lost grip. Those opening laps of practice. He lost grip and spun. Another cart spun, and they spun right in front of me, and it was full throttle. So I locked up the brakes to spin and missed them. I think I barely touched one of the guys with my bumper. And there's this train of carts coming because we're all freight training down the straightaway. And I'm thinking, this is going to be very, very ugly, guys. And they all missed me except the last guy. And as a karter, you realize, and even in cars, you realize that when you're in that situation, your only form of protection against other carts, especially when you're backwards and there's carts coming right at you, is your cart. That's the only thing you had to protect you. It's the bodywork on your cart and your cart itself. You're pretty much a sitting duck. And there was nothing I could do. Killed the engine, or the engine died when I spun and stopped. So I had these carts coming at me, and the last guy in line was the only guy that didn't miss me, and he just plowed into the front of me and up and over me. And it was pretty gnarly. And I'm pushing my cart off the track, and I'm pretty shaken, and the track steward comes up to me and got in my face and was yelling at me, asking me why I didn't get out of my cart and get it out of the way of those cars, or those carts coming at me. And I'm like, did you not see the pack of carts that was right behind me? Well, you got to get out of your cart. He was saying, you got to move it out of the way because you were a danger. And I'm like, and he was getting up in my face, and I turned to him like, it was the only protection I had in my cart. And I know you don't get out of your cart with traffic. You don't walk into traffic. And he kept getting up in my face, and I finally turned to him and I said, I need to walk away. You're making me very angry, and I've just come out of a bad situation. So let's not escalate this. And I thought that was a very adult thing that I did.
And I would agree.
And he got very upset with me. And at that time, I think it was my left hand started really hurting me, so I took my glove off because I noticed my glove was frayed. And turns out I had this big cut on my palm because when the cart came up and over me, he swept my arm back, and his chain, I think, caught my hand and cut my hand. So I was, bleeding, if you're squeamish here, but I was bleeding all the way down my arm, pretty gnarly. And he turns, and it was like automatically he sees the blood coming down my arm. He's like, oh my gosh, do you need an ambulance? You're really bleeding. Oh my gosh, are you hurt? And I'm like, and I turned to him, and it was probably, I say this is my best one-liner. And I turned to him, I said, well, we're kind of past that point now, aren't we? And walked away. And I feel bad about that situation, but I thought what I was doing was the more thing. He was trying to instigate a situation, and I was like, I don't want any part of this, dude. It was a mess, and you're trying to blame the whole thing on me when I was simply trying to avoid a big accident, and then ended up in a big accident. So, yeah. So try and approach things, kids and adults, with a little bit more tact, and try and be a little bit more adult about it. Walking away from a situation is not a bad thing. Just state your intention. Don't just turn and leave somebody alone. Just say, I need to walk away, rather than throwing punches or getting upset. So.
And it doesn't show weakness either. In fact, it shows a lot more strength than anybody who tries to get in a fist fight. It shows a lot of emotional restraint.
Yeah, I was really upset, and I know with my temper, I was like 5 seconds from just going off on this guy, and I'm like, no, I need to walk away. And I did that, and it was probably my best into a bad situation. So,
well, what I do, especially with rental karting, where you're in situations where there might not be enough experience to know that that was just a racing, and they didn't mean to hit me. Because I've been in situations where like I've gotten been at the indoor kart track and made contact with someone. It was completely like it was just a mistake. Like we weren't trying to take each other out. It was just racing. But they don't interpret it that way because they just haven't. I mean, sometimes it takes a practiced eye to say, that just wasn't bad intentions. That was just bad luck.
Yeah.
So like what I always do is like I just make it clear, either if we're both out, because usually you don't end up getting out of your carts till the end of the race, right? I just make it clear before we even go back to whatever communal area there is at the track. I'm like, hey, didn't mean I just make it clear like, hey, I didn't mean to make contact with them. It was just a mistake, wrong place, wrong time. And generally, if you just put out that sort of olive branch, sometimes some people will say, well, aren't that doesn't that upset your honor? It's like I'd rather just diffuse the situation rather than have some stranger who I'll never race against get pissed at me and complain to the track or punch me out. So maybe I kind of lay down a bit more than I have to, but considering like I'm at the rental track, I just don't feel like it's worth getting upset over. It's a different deal at the racetrack. Yeah, like if we're actually in competition. Because I've yeah, I think Corey, you put it well. Like you've just got to be tactful about it because it's not always the same response to every situation. Like I'm wondering, Andrew, were you there when were you on the team when made contact with another driver from a fraternity, and one of us ended up up the banking at Whiteland, and the other person finished second?
Oh, yes. I remember this.
So let's tell this story, right? So this might have been one of our best run ever.
I think it was our best run.
Yeah,
I think it was my freshman year.
Yeah. We had to hit the high points early, but so we're running at Whiteland. Probably this time of year gets dark early, and we were still running the CRG, and we were on it. I think Lance was still helping tune for us.
Yeah.
At that point, and we got that cart hooked up, and all evening, the only person who could outrun us was the 4-time winner of the Grand Prix, who was just running away with everything at that point. But he was the only person who could outrun us. So we were over the moon, and I remember his dad was like, if you finish anywhere lower than second, I'm going to be disappointed because I know you can give him a run for his money. Oh, wow. Okay. So, like, I'm up on the wheel, right? And I'm starting. I made a mistake in qualifying, so I'm starting third, right? Because I made a mistake in the qualifying. So I'm pushing the other driver. This should I give him a pseudonym?
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, go for it.
I was pushing Johnny to the start finish line, right? I was giving a good old Talladega shove. And anyways, shove him, and I must have hit him hard because he shoots off in front of me. And now the guy who started second just pops in between us. I'm like, okay, that's not what I planned to have happen. But anyways, so Johnny sprints on away. Like, cool. All right. So now I'm battling with other fella for second place. And other fella doesn't want to get past for second place. And other fella is putting the old Scott Pruitt fade on me in every corner. So it gets to the point where I get a really, really good run out of turn 1 and through turn 2 and onto the backstretch. And this is back when we had what we called the chicane, which was really just a curve that had enough bumps in it that your cart moved from left to right right to left to right there. Again. It's still there. Well, they've smoothed it though.
Somewhat.
Okay, because I called it El Yump back in the day.
Yeah, the Yump.
It was that was like fluke plots at the Nürburgring. Like it's like hold on, And
Separated my ribs there once.
oof.
Broke
Sweet God.
my seat, just trashed my rib vest and separated my ribs there once. But they have fixed it since then. But yes, continue.
So I found, a lot of people, especially as it was getting colder and we were losing grip, a lot of people were lifting through there, and we had this cart really hooked up, and I was wide open through there, and pop to the, so I'm on this guy's bumper, get a run, wide open through the yump, cut to the left, and it's maybe 2 cart widths wide right before you enter the banking. And he decides that he's not going. So first of all, we don't have mirrors, so we're all driving with the force, and he decides that he's going to escort me to the grass or discourage me from coming alongside him. And I'd had it at that point, and so I'm 2 wheels in the grass, but maintain, like, I'm alongside him before we get to that apex. So he comes down on me. I'm 2 wheels in the grass. I'm still in it, and we lock wheels. And I can just see in my mind's eye, like, oh yeah, this is about to be a hard right turn up the banking into the barrier, Daytona 500 style.
Oof.
And in that moment, I just grabbed the wheel, like did a reverse 9 3 grip, and yanked the wheel to the left, and actually lifted my right front tire back over his left front, and he went into the barrier, and I went on and finished second. And I was just so I ran the hardest laps of my life because I knew that someone was gonna punt me. Like, I was like, if his cart's running, I'm a dead man, right? And it turns out he knocked the boot off of his spark plug. And when I saw him in the, I was ready for him to come after me, right? Like, I was geared up for him to come after me in the paddock. And I looked over, I just saw him, and he just had the most despondent look on his face. And I think eventually we actually became pretty decent friends through the years after that. But I remember it's like I was ready for a fight. Like, I was set. I was like, okay, you know what? I know he came down on me. I held my line. I'm ready. And I saw the look, and he looked like a kicked puppy, and I felt so bad. You can't give the position back, but it just shows you can't always anticipate how the other person's going to feel. So you can't even go into the into a situation thinking that there's going to be a confrontation. You kind of you really got to play it by ear.
Yeah.
There's another thing that I'll say is so as racers, we have pride, and with pride comes a bit of a temper, right? But there's certain, I've learned that, actually, I knew, I was raised knowing this, that it's acceptable for some people to show that, and it'll be considered, passion and drive and intensity. And other people will show the same characteristics, and it'll be seen as threatening. One time, Whiteland, we were running reverse configuration at night, and I'm actually following the same guy that I'd made contact with, different race week.
Does this guy have a pseudonym himself?
Daryl. We will call him Daryl. Daryl of the Polygon fraternity.
Okay.
That's for all you geometry. That's for all you geometry nerds out there. All right. Yeah, I know math. I can math. But so we're coming up on a lap car that was actually one of your proteges, Corey. And we're coming into what's usually turn 1, which is, in a Grand Prix kart, is almost wide open. You're just cracking the throttle and flicking it, and then I get it just sideways enough and get back on the throttle and keep it at an angle, and it's even faster in the opposite direction because you're coming down off the banking, off the backstretch through 2 and then into turn 1, and the lap car spun right at the exit of turn 1, and I'm almost alongside Daryl, and Daryl, we did like a fighter jet split. Like he broke left and went up off the track into the grass, and I tried to go right and slide it and like dirt track it by the spun car. And right at that moment, the driver of the car let off the brake, and well, I found out just how much energy it takes to deform a steel axle, because my thing bent a solid 45 degrees. And so I'm just like bunny hopping down the track after that, and eventually pull over, get out. I'm just pulling off my like I said, pull off my gloves and just throwing my seat in disgust as I'm pushing this cart off the track, because knowing that we've got another race the next week, and I don't know how I'm going to get this axle fixed, which is actually how I met you, Corey, because you had that thing fixed in like the next day, which blew my mind. I was like, that's the moment I knew, like, okay, yeah, this guy's it.
That was right after I made my axle changing tool too. I was like, ooh, I get to try this finally.
Yeah, because I was like, okay, well, hope you guys have it done by next week. And then I get a call the next day, hey, so your axle's ready. It's like, I felt like a member at that moment. But anyways, before we get to that heartwarming section of the story,
oh dear,
I pull my gloves off, just throwing them in the seat, like, come on, man. And someone ran up to me, they're like, grabbing a hold of me, they're like, you gotta pull yourself together, you can't act like that, calm down. I'm sitting here like, I'm getting shaken like a rag doll. I'm just perplexed. Like, are we experiencing the same reality? What? It's like, you need to calm down. You're not. Yeah, I was like, okay, cool. And that's when I realized, like, the same thing that I'd seen, same relatively innocuous thing that I'd seen so many other drivers do, I couldn't get away with. And since then, I think that's why I've avoided so many incidents, because I've had a really, really tight lip. Not that I have much of a temper to begin, but yeah, it's interesting when you see how that affects people.
Yeah, that's kind of like seems like whenever I it was like whenever I showed passion, people got scared.
Yep.
Andrew, what do you have to add to this?
Oh boy, I feel like the only situation that could have happened with me that I remember specifically, other than the two that Christian just mentioned, was after Christian graduated last year, and I think literally this is like exactly a year ago now. But I was also at Whiteland, and I was with a new team. I built a brand new kart for it, new driver and everything. Literally came to Whiteland not having run a single lap on that kart. Everything was basically fresh out of the shop, which it was nice. It ran pretty well. And in the qualifying session, I think we were third or fourth quickest out of like 16 carts, the 16 carts that entered. And apparently, on like the 7th or 8th lap or something like that, my guy got in a wreck battling for third with another guy who had been basically, he hadn't been driving super great all day. He was being rather overly aggressive the whole race, lap 1 to lap whatever he finished on. And I completely missed it. Me and the guy who was with me helping the team were filling the spare fuel tank for the pit stop, I think. And I completely missed that accident. And I go up to the stands, and my girlfriend was there too for her own thing. And she's like, did you see what happened? And I'm like, no. And she's like, okay, cool.
Way to leave
come
you
on.
hanging.
And that was it.
Hey, rival team, man. Rival team.
Yeah.
Her team wasn't even in that race.
Oh, that's right. That's
Oh,
right.
yeah.
I remember.
I think I remember the incident too, because he was quick, but he just had a bad day. If that's the one I'm thinking of.
I think he ended up finishing third
Yeah. Like I
behind
think
my guy.
he had quick lap of the race, because when that happened, he came off track and they actually quasi fixed the car, but he was way down on laps. So he went back out just trying to get a quick lap in, I think.
I think it was another team because I think I know
Okay.
who you're talking about.
Okay. We can't officially name names on here.
Yeah.
Everyone is guilty until proven innocent.
But yeah, I guess I could have gotten into a fight, but I didn't because the world / God / whatever deity you believe in determined that I was not to see such a thing.
Sometimes that's the best, where you're just doing something else and it's like, huh, what? It's like,
I agree.
Huh? What was that noise?
I agree. It was for the best. And, the only thing that really came out of it was me wondering, when we got back to the shop, hey, why is our Nerf bar bent up 5 degrees?
A lot of this seems to have been stemming from the car being overtaken, making either an overly aggressive or ignorant move. So let's talk about the passing etiquette point.
Well, so passing etiquette. So admittedly, the way it was described to me is, at least at the dirt track, was if you've got your nose in front of the car you're passing, you have the line. And the other car is supposed to let you have the line.
So that never.
Yeah, that never really happens, but as long as you've got your nose, you're supposed to let the other, you're supposed to have the line. That's how it was described to me. Pretty simple. And I know there's varying degrees of that. So I raced at a track that literally the only place that they let you pass, according to their national rule book, quote unquote, was they had a passing lane marked out by a painted line on the straightaways. And you had to pop down below the passing line and complete the pass or get alongside them before the corner. And the driver's supposed to let you have the corner because they'd had so many in-corner incidents.
How are you supposed to have enough horsepower for that?
Yeah, that was like the big question. Yeah, it was really silly. And that lasted like one season, I think, or not even a full season, because people just started passing in the corners. Like, you'll get DQ'd if you pass in the corner. And okay, it's a dirt track. Get over yourself. But yeah, the etiquette's supposed to be, from what I understand, if you or the other driver has the nose in front of somebody going into the corner, that driver has the corner and you're supposed to yield the position. Now, given that on a last lap shootout where you're both dead equal, it's kind of like everyone for themselves at that point. Don't take the other guy out, but be courteous.
You just really have to trust the person.
Yeah.
It's one of those, you have to know who you're racing against. Like when we were running the vintage, the one time we ran vintage against each other at Whiteland, and I got a run on you going into turn 2, and I was like, I am maybe right alongside you in your peripheral. I just trusted that you knew I was there, and you knew I was there, and we both got through.
You can hear it. I can hear you at that point. And then there's like going down into the hairpin. I remember you just drove it down the inside, and I knew you were going to drive it down the inside. It was like, I know Chris is going to drive this down the inside. He's going to drive it in there hard. And I know what that's going to result in. So I let you drive it down the inside, and I'm like, I'm just going to tiptoe through here. Yep.
You
Okay.
didn't
I
have
got
to tell you didn't have to tell them that part of
it. Yeah, it was fun because it was so back and forth. You were quicker, but I was smarter in some places.
Hey, I'd never driven an 1.25 inch axle. Like, I thought I was good.
Well, I was like, he's going to drive it down the inside, drive it up the inside so hard, and he's going to hop coming out of the corner, and he's going to push all the way up the track, and I'm going to have a great line coming out, and I'm just going to tiptoe by. I'm not going to walk by or run by, just tiptoe. And that's what happened, but then you threw the chain, so,
Yeah.
it was like, okay, well, that was more advantageous than what I thought.
So it's like when you come by, I'm just like waving, like hi.
I was like,
Like,
dang it,
what?
I was having fun. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was like a real Lightning McQueen and Cars 3 moment. I used to be fast. Now I got to be smart.
Yep. I'm getting it.
So, but that's kind of our take this week on the whole etiquette and sportsmanship situation. Um, Obviously, we didn't get into a whole lot of sportsmanship on congratulating people because I feel like you should learn that when you're in Little League or as a kid, saying congrats. Um, Chris and I give each other a lot of crap over our races, and we do it because we know we're playing. We're fun about it. Don't do this to people you don't know because they may take it the wrong way and you fist in the face. You never know. Um, so don't do that. Uh, you're gonna have a bad time.
Gonna have a bad time.
But yeah, that's kind of our take on that. And it's unfortunate that the karting community has been highlighted by this incident. And I hope that this is not the one thing that we're known for, even though it seems like the karting community only ever gets press when something inherently bad is happening, like that
Well, that's almost
reality
with the
show.
entire racing community.
Yeah,
You know?
like that reality show, Karting Life or Kart Life or whatever, following the Manufacturers Cup families around, and the kid who had to have like 8 helmets for a race weekend. I'm like, oh my gosh. Horrible
Look, man,
press.
I was at USPKS last weekend. That's real. That's real.
Oh yeah, it's real.
Show up in a hauler and have a fresh helmet so that your kid doesn't break out in acne as though they're not already going through puberty.
Yeah, I had the same helmet on the dirt track for like the maximum amount of time that Snell would allot. So I don't want to talk about acne in high school.
Oh yeah, believe. Yeah. Did you have the telltale visor marks from where you broke out right where your visor opening was with all the padding?
Temples and forehead were my thing. And that's why
Yep.
this is a quick tip, not related to anything that we've been talking about, but that's why make sure you get a helmet that fits you perfectly, because this is why I don't generally wear impact helmets anymore, because the forehead and temples, the forehead just pushes into my forehead too much.
Yep.
So it pushed into my forehead and really rubbed, and I got really nasty forehead and temple acne. So now I've got more of a bell head. So, or Zamp in my case.
Hey, I'll take the bell plug. Also, I'd like to put in a plug for Molecule Refresh. Get the
That stuff's
stank out of
amazing.
your helmet. That's the plug, guys.
Please
So-
sponsor us.
Please sponsor us, Molecule.
Yeah, Molecule. I would be really happy if somebody from Willpower Cart would send me an email. But, hey, we would love to have you try a chassis for us.
You have to stop doing the accent though.
Oh, okay. I had to stop doing the accent. So anybody from Willpower Cart, or I guess any cart company out there, if you want to sponsor us with that, I would be very, very gracious to list you as a sponsor on the website or on our page. So,
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug. So yeah. But yeah, in closing, I guess that was our topic for the week. We just wanted to talk a little bit about the sportsmanship and all the stuff that's been going down, and don't be that guy. Basically, I guess what was described as my law in the drivers' meetings for you Grand Prix guys was Corey's law: don't be a dick.
Yep.
Which is derived from Wheaton's law, so of don't be a dick. But you heard it here: don't be a dick. So I guess, in closing, we hope to see you guys and give you guys some more content here soon from the podcast, both the podcast and the YouTube channel. And as always, keep it on all fours and keep on keeping on. Cue the cart noises. Thanks, guys. See you later.
Da-da-da-da.
Blah, 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 blah.